Welcome back to the Explainer. So let's just dive right into this. Imagine a world where the ultimate prophesied hero, the guy summoned to literally save humanity, actually just wants to be left alone to farm his cabbages. Meanwhile, a terrifying demon queen has already successfully conquered the entire planet. Today, we're walking through this hilariously overpowered epic manhwa story of a farmer who accidentally conquers the world's greatest threat without even realizing it.
Okay, to set the stage here, Demon Queen Elizabeth is the strongest ruler in history. She has unified all races under her terrifying banner. But there's this lingering prophecy hanging over her head. A legendary hero is going to pull a sacred sword from the ground and defeat her. Well, after waiting 15 years for this supposed hero to finally show up, Elizabeth just gets bored. She pulls the sword out herself and uses it to track him down. She teleports to this remote location, totally expecting an epic battle, only to find a guy in a straw hat named Li Ping who's really just stressed out about his laundry getting wet in the rain.
Now, the core dramatic irony that drives this entire narrative is just brilliant. On one side, we have Li Ping. The system that brought him to this world crashed years ago because literally all he did was farm. He genuinely believes he's just a weak, powerless mortal suffering from massive imposter syndrome. But on the other side, we have Elizabeth, who constantly misinterprets his mundane, everyday farming chores as these calculated, godly flexes. So he thinks he's begging for his life, while she thinks he's asserting absolute dominance.
And right from their very first encounter, this misunderstanding just takes off. Elizabeth unleashes her absolute ultimate continent-destroying magic right at Li Ping's tiny farmhouse. But Li Ping's mechanical farm dog, Wan Kai, which, by the way, he built just out of boredom, calculates the threat, conjures a literal black hole, and casually swallows her apocalyptic attack like it's nothing. The sheer shock of her maximum power being instantly erased by a robotic pet causes the legendary Demon Queen to literally pass out on his lawn.
So when she wakes up, Li Ping decides the only way he's going to survive is to befriend her. He serves her a simple bowl of spicy farm soup. But because Li Ping's farming cultivation is completely maxed out, his vegetables contain a lethal density of magical energy. Elizabeth eats it, instantly transcends to a higher realm of existence, and assumes this hero is forcefully feeding her magical energy just to brutally test her limits. It's a hilarious lesson in perspective, right? One person's basic soup is another person's mythical elixir. Over the next year, she just stays at his farm, getting progressively stronger and honestly way lazier just by eating his home-cooked meals.
Section 1. Accidental Flexes, the Outside World Intrudes.
Let's see how this builds when the outside world finally breaches Li Ping's peaceful little bubble. You see, Elizabeth's arrival actually broke the barrier that was hiding his home. With that barrier down, an injured elf father and his daughter are rescued by the robot dog and brought into the farm. Li Ping serves them a basic cup of hot tea. One sip, it instantly heals the father's fatal wounds and shoots both of them up multiple magical tiers. To Li Ping, it's literally just boiled water with some herbs, but to the rest of the world, these are mythic, god-tier elixirs.
Later that night, Li Ping casually invites the elf father to play a simple game of cards. But Li Ping uses a deck he crafted himself. The elf quickly realizes that playing these cards actually drains his literal life force. Terrified of offending this unfathomable hero, the elf father sacrifices the life force of his own leg just to play a high-ranking hand, which accidentally summons apocalyptic dragons straight into the living room. And Li Ping? He is entirely oblivious to the absolute terror happening right in front of him. He just thinks the old man is really intensely into card games.
Section 2. The Dungeon of Misunderstandings.
So, the crucial point here is that Li Ping's mundane items are dangerously overpowered. This becomes painfully obvious when Li Ping decides to leave the farm for his very first adventure, joining a dungeon raid with a Centaur Knight's party. Deep inside the dungeon, the party takes a break. Li Ping, just being a hospitable guy, shares some organic bananas from his backpack. The Centaur Knight and his party eat them, and the magical density causes them to instantly evolve to demonic sovereign levels. Drunk on this sudden massive power, the Centaur betrays the group, transforms into a monstrous demon, and tries to kill everyone. Of course, Elizabeth easily swats him away like a fly, but the crazy part is that all of this chaos was started by a piece of fruit.
And despite witnessing all of this chaos, Li Ping literally says, "I am just a weak farmer. I need to practice to become a hero." He still completely believes he lacks any magical ability whatsoever. He actually decides he needs to actively start training his swordsmanship if he ever wants to survive the dangers of the outside world.
Section 3. Accidental Godhood, Slicing Universes with Tai Chi.
This leads us to what is arguably the most mind-bending sequence in the entire story. Li Ping dusts off this old Tai Chi exercise manual and decides to do some morning stretches out in the yard. He begins the movements. Step 1, a dragonfly touches water. Suddenly the power dynamics of the entire area shift completely. Step 2, meteors strike the moon. He literally alters the landscape, standing on a moon as Elizabeth desperately tries to defend against a barrage of magical meteors. And then, step 3, he closes his eyes, reaches the final movement, and casually creates an entire universe, and then slices it into dust.
The contrast here is just fantastic. Li Ping opens his eyes, totally refreshed, thinking he just got in a really good cardio workout. Meanwhile, Elizabeth has just thrown her ultimate, most destructive magic at him, only to watch it completely disintegrate against the literal cosmos he just conjured. Her immense pride is finally, completely shattered. But instead of fear, her realization turns into this weird, romantic awe. She decides she wants him.
And it's not just the Demon Queen who's intimidated here. Alpha, the sacred sword of prophecy, the very weapon meant to slay the queen, finally awakens its consciousness. But as it explores Li Ping's house, the sacred sword immediately senses this immense, murderous aura radiating from Li Ping's kitchen utensils. The legendary sword is so terrified of a literal kitchen cleaver that it runs outside and hides. It realizes it is basically the absolute weakest piece of metal on the entire farm.
Section 4. The Black Guild Attacks. Now for the rising action. While Elizabeth has been hanging out eating pudding and Li Ping has been doing his cosmic Tai Chi, the rest of the world has basically been falling apart in the Queen's absence. A sinister organization known as the Black Guild has seized power. They're fusing cultists with forbidden demonic gears, plunging cities into absolute chaos, and kidnapping elves for these dark, twisted living experiments. And their ultimate endgame? To completely dethrone Demon Queen Elizabeth and plunge the world into a new era of dark magic.
The Black Guild eventually manages to track down Li Ping's location. They send Ruth, who is an incredibly powerful succubus and their ultimate charm demon, to infiltrate the farm. Her mission is to use her fatal attraction magic to seduce Li Ping, turn him into a mindless puppet, and then use him to assassinate the Demon Queen.
So Ruth unleashes her maximum charm magic directly into Li Ping's eyes. He just blinks, thinks she looks a little bit dizzy, and offers her a cup of tea and a bath. When Ruth goes to the bathroom and uses Li Ping's homemade liquid soap, the sheer magical density of the soap instantly evolves her into a 4-star Demon King. Overwhelmed by the pure luxury and the insane power boost from basic hygiene products, Ruth instantly betrays the Black Guild. It humorously reminds us that sometimes basic hospitality conquers all. She decides she'd rather scrub floors at the farm than ever leave.
Section 5. The Demon Queen's War.
Eventually, the chaos of the Black Guild can no longer be ignored, and Elizabeth's past finally catches up with her. She sends her most loyal subordinate, a fierce demon general named Amelia, to investigate the Black Guild's headquarters. But things go horribly wrong. Elizabeth is forced to teleport to the scene, only to discover Amelia drained of all her life force, trapped inside this twisted demonic incubator egg by Malfoy, the leader of the Black Guild. Seeing her general dead, Elizabeth drops all pretenses. We finally get to see the true, terrifying scale of her power. She completely bypasses the laws of nature and unleashes a forbidden 1,000-year life spell, forcefully pumping her own immense magical energy into Amelia's shell, literally dragging her general's body back from the dead.
But then comes a massive emotional gut punch. Amelia opens her eyes, looks up at the queen she has loyally served for centuries and asks, "Who are you?" Elizabeth realizes that, while she was able to resurrect the physical body, Amelia's soul and all of her memories have been completely stolen and wiped clean.
Elizabeth's aura explodes across the entire planet. Her terrifying gaze is felt by every guild, every king, and every creature on the continent. She makes a chilling vow. I will find that cursed Malfoy and utterly destroy him. For the first time in the story, she isn't fighting for pride or over some silly prophecy. She is going to war for pure revenge.
Which leaves us with a huge, burning question. Malfoy might be the leader, but what dark entity is actually pulling the strings behind the Black Guild? Who has the power to steal a demon general's soul? And how on earth is our overpowered, completely oblivious farmer Li Ping going to react when a full-scale global war lands right on his cabbage patch? Well, we'll have to find out next time. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.